This is our comparison of the Kimber Aegis Elite Custom versus the Sig Sauer P220. Let's hit the range. The Kimber Aegis Elite Custom is a government-sized 1911 pistol. It is 5.25 inches high, 8.7 inches long, and 1.28 inches wide. Weighs in at 40 ounces. The Aegis line comes with what Kimber calls the Elite X or AEX Serrations. These are on the front and rear of the slide on this model. The trigger is a single action only trigger that weighs in between 4 and 5 pounds. The grip frame has that rounded style that I prefer, and the grip material is that G10 material, which is in this gray-green color pattern that Kimber did for the Aegis line. I think they're okay. The gun comes with nice fiber optic target sights. That's a red fiber optic front sight with a green fiber optic rear sight. Now I will say I have had problems with this front fiber optic filament breaking or even melting, and as you can see here, the fiber optic that I currently have installed appears to have a little play, and it does, and I think it's because it started to melt a little even from when I shot it for this video. Now the gun does come with a 5-inch stainless steel barrel and what Kimber says is a match grade bushing. We'll come back to this barrel here after we hit the range again. Before we get into this next part, I'm going to start off with the disclaimer that I'm not an expert. I'm not a 1911 expert. The only thing I know is that they're fun to shoot and that I've shot a few of them. I've shot no custom 1911s or high-end 1911s. I would go as far as to say probably the most expensive 1911 I've shot is the 1911 you're looking at in this video, which I got for around $1,000. And I have owned the other two pistols in this line, the Commander and the officer size model. I got those for retail price. Nobody is paying me anything for any kind reviews, negative reviews. I get nothing out of them. These are purely my opinions based on my experience with this gun. Now I mention that because one of the things that bothered me when I was researching this gun and then later had it to experience is I often ran into what I'm going to call talking points, where I think people were given review guns and talking points to say. For example, one thing that I saw or read quite often on this was something to the effect of use any brand ammo, do any drill, it'll work, there'll be no malfunctions, no stoppages. Now here's my honest assessment on that, and I really don't like talking negative about stuff, but when you have a negative experience and it's repeatable, verifiable, well, it's mentionable. So all three of the Aegis pistols that I have had or own still, none of them work, I'm going to say, reliably at all. The Commander size one I had I don't have it anymore, but frankly it's probably the one I should have kept. It worked the most reliably, was the least prone to failure, was frankly a good gun. I don't know if it was worth what I paid for it, but it was a good gun nonetheless. This one is pretty good. As you saw in this video, it had a stoppage, a malfunction. Every time I've shot it, it's had at least one stoppage or malfunction, sometimes more. The officer-sized one I had was, I'm going to be honest, it was bad. It was bad out the box. Kimber fixed it for me. They actually got it back to me really quick. I shipped it out on a Monday. I had it back in my hand on Friday. So to me, it was like I didn't get to miss anything. Their customer service was very good in that regard. Gun came back and it worked like it should have when it was brand new. And I don't know, maybe I should send this one in, who knows. But it works close enough to where it's a target gun to me. that I'll only do for target shooting, so it doesn't bother me enough to send it in, we'll put it that way. Now, the reason I bring it up and I waxed on about it for a little longer is since buying these guns, I've found other Kimber owners, and of course I could give you third-hand stories of their tales, and really all I'll say is I don't know anybody who has had an experience that lines up with there'll be no malfunctions or stoppages. So I'll be curious to see if anybody comments to say that they've actually had a no malfunctions, no stoppages experience, because I'm always looking for positive experience with something, not just negative Nancy stuff. Now we're gonna drill down. I don't normally do this kind of stuff, but I figure with, if you're gonna buy a Kimber or you're thinking about it, let's see if we can see what you're getting for that money, right? Because I always like to know that when I'm buying a gun. Now here you can see what I'm gonna call the exploded view of the gun. I will point out that while it's not the most difficult gun to break down, like say something like a Ruger Mark III, it's not as easy as say the Sig that we're going to look at in the second half of this video. You do need a tool to break it down, that bushing tool, so keep that in mind. Some people, they're going to look at that as being negative, right? Like if they have to field strip it in the field, do they want to have to carry that tool? You be the judge, I'm not an expert. Compared to other 1911s, I thought the barrel on this one was a little different. It's a stainless steel barrel. It's what they call the integrally ramped barrel. You'll notice there's no feed ramps or locking lugs on there. There's just, I don't know, a built-in mini feed ramp cone action on this barrel. And if I'm being honest, and as my not an expert opinion, I kind of wonder if the combination of how tight this gun is, along with that mini feed ramp design, contribute to maybe some of my failure to feed issues. Maybe something needs to be polished in that to smooth that out. Now this is, I believe they call it a 1 in 16 left-hand twist barrel. When it works, I think this gun is actually very accurate. I'm very happy with the accuracy. I think it's a lot more accurate than I'm capable of shooting. One thing I will also mention is, compared to the Commander style gun that is in this Aegis line, this one I was actually surprised to see just sort of a regular barrel. I wish I still had the Commander one to get a picture of, but it has this nice beefy match barrel, and I'm like, wow, that thing is a beast, and that was a good shooter. That's the one I probably really should have kept. I don't know if it technically had a match grade barrel, but I think that extra mass in the barrel helped it absorb a little recoil to shoot as well as this government-sized gun in that regard. Looking at the frame of the gun, at the grip front strap, you'll notice that it has some nice 24 lines per inch checker cut in there. I really like that texture, and while the rear, the back strap has sort of some vertical lines for texture, I wish they would have checkered that as well. I would have liked that texture on both sides. Another thing I'll mention, and I don't know if it makes any difference, is you notice the rails on the frame only go about halfway. It's not a full-length rail on there. I don't know. Again, I have no idea if that makes a difference. Like most 1911s, it does have that grip safety as well as the thumb safety. The thumb safety I wanted to say is low profile, but I think it's sort of a low profile but flare down the right place. It works well for a thumb safety, if I'm being honest. Here, to me, it also looks like the frame has a little bit of a ramp milled into it to help with the integral ramped barrel action. Let's give another view I'll try to get for you. And here's a top-down view, sort of that frame and safety, and sort of how thin the gun is with the slide off. Nothing terribly remarkable, I'd say, about it. Now this slide is a stainless steel slide that comes in a matte black, what they call Kimber 2 finish, and I don't know, I'm not too wild on this. I'm concerned on how well it is going to hold up, if I'm being honest. To me, in places, if I look at it in the right light, I don't know, it just looks like it's going to give me some problems down the road. I hope not, though. Now those AEX serrations that the Aegis model has, I think they look nicer than the function that they provide. They do work as a grip texture element to help you when manipulating the slide, but I wish that they actually had a little more grip texture to them. Frankly, I wish there was a little more function and like to the then aesthetics, we'll say, on that front. They look nice. We'll put it that way. They look nice. They work. I think they could work better and still look nice. And as mentioned before, it does come with nice fiber optic target sights on it. And again, for some reason on this government model, that front sight likes to melt on me. On my other two, I had no problems with the fiber optics on them. I don't know, so maybe it's just something about the fiber optic positioning on this one. Who knows? Curious to see if anyone else has that same issue. Mention it in the comments if you do. Now, another couple mentionables on this model is it does feature a nice full-length guide rod, which I do like. I think that adds just a little bit of extra weight that you don't notice, but you do notice in recoil. And it does have a 16-pound recoil spring, which I don't know if that weight makes any difference, but I will comment and say on all three of these models, the manufacturer Kimber recommends changing that spring at what I consider a very low number. I think the officer model is like 500 and maybe 800 and then maybe 1,000. It's some step up like that for all three, but it was some absurdly low number that if I would have known before buying, I would have considered that more, because I don't think Browning would have designed a gun to need a spring replaced after that few rounds. That's like one good day's range session for some people, right? Anyway, now the gun does come with one 8-round Kimber magazine, and I don't know, it's a standard 1911 magazine. It works in other 1911s. It kind of works in the Kimber. I say kind of because, I mean, frankly, everything kind of works in my Kimbers. Nothing works perfect. The Ruger one works the best. I have some Wilson Combat ones. I think those actually work the worst in this gun, which is sort of contradictory to what the internet would lead you to believe, but hey, everybody has a different experience. Don't buy based just on mine. The Kimber mags, I think they worked, well, frankly, everything worked equally well, except the Ruger might be a smidge better in this gun. And Kimber and Ruger probably are going to hate me for saying that, but it is what it is, as they like to say. Anyway, so I spent a lot of time talking about this Kimber, and I tried to show a lot of pictures to help people who, like me, want to know where did that money go when you buy a Kimber. And I hope that helped a little, even though I'm not an expert. Now let's move on and hit the range with something else that we're going to compare it to, a different single stack option that, who knows, is it as good, is it better, is it worse? We'll find out. The Sig Sauer P220 is a single action, double action, hammer fired pistol. This version is in 45 ACP, and as you can see, this is the classic old style one before they had the rail on it. It has an overall length of 7.7 inches, a width of 1.3 inches, a height of 5.5 inches, and weighs in at 30.4 ounces. That's an alloy frame, a stainless steel slide, and a 4.4-inch carbon steel barrel. Now this model features a decocker lever that is in front of the slide release. That will drop the hammer from a cocked to a not cocked position. Now this takes your trigger and it changes it from the single action with the hammer cocked to the double action with the hammer down. Now since I mentioned in the Kimber portion that requires a tool, this has a takedown lever that you just push down with the slide back. After, of course, making sure the gun is cleared, you push down the lever, slide comes right off, gun can be easily disassembled for cleaning and maintenance. I imagine the sights are a little different than what came on mine many years ago. This has what I call snowman double dot sights. I've never been a big fan of them, though for basically the 15 yards and in, I probably mostly shoot this gun at there just fine. Beyond that, I struggle, we'll say. Definitely struggle past that. Now, as I mentioned, this is a first gen P220. The ones you're likely to find in store are probably a little different. From what I understand, they make the slides a little different now, as well as also having features like a rail for attaching a light or other tactical attachment. I imagine they also probably come with some more modernized night sights or something to that effect. Let's do one more range trip, huh? Alright, so same disclaimer as before. Not an expert, not a SIG expert. This is purely my opinion based on my experience owning this gun for over 20 years. So we're going to do that exploded view like we did before. And as I mentioned, yes, it is significantly easier to field strip this gun versus the 1911. Push the takedown lever down, boom, you're done. Breaks down quick and easy. I'll even give you a similar view of the barrel like we did before. As you can see, there is a little bit of a barrel feed ramp on this barrel. I think you would even call those lugs on that barrel too, but again, I'm not an expert. I don't even know what the twist rate on this gun is. I don't know, does it really matter? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to you probably either. I will say this gun, it's over 30 years old. It doesn't have the largest round count through it. I don't know, it's probably 2,000 to 3,000 rounds, not a lot for us. Now, as I say, this gun, it's over 30 years old. Is it a carry gun? Technically, yes. Has it been someone's carry gun? No. It hasn't been holstered, unholstered 40,000 times. It mostly sits in a safe, though it does get still shot regularly. I think it's actually aged pretty well, considering that I still shoot it regularly. I don't shoot it hard, but I shoot it regularly. I'm not afraid to take it and shoot it somewhere and put, a lot of rounds through it in a day. Like years ago when I got this gun, I would do zombie shoots with my 1022 rifle, which was my rifle at the time. And you needed a backup gun, right? I mean, every good zombie hunter has a backup gun. And the shoots I did, you needed to be able to engage at least 20 targets. Well, I mean, having the Sig single stack P220 was not ideal, but it was what I had. So I did buy, I have 4 magazines in total. I have the 2 factory mags that came with it. Back when this gun came out, it came with 2 7-round magazines. You could get, when I got it, they considered high capacity magazines 8-round magazines, right? I mean, that's, in terms of marketing terms, 1 round up is not high capacity, but to each their own, I guess. I think now these actually come with 8-round magazines, and it wouldn't surprise me if the high capacity ones were 9, but that's a debate for another day. Anyway, so this was my backup zombie gun for years, and Ruger probably won't like to hear it, but on a couple occasions I did have problems with those BX25 mags, and I did have to use this for shoots. Go through all 4 or 5 stages, engaging 20 targets with my little single stack Sig P220. So I would like to say on those occasions where me and the old P220 backup gun became the primary, that it carried the day and we won, and it kicked ass. But the reality is it did kick ass. It always performed without fail for me. In the stages where when I had 29 shots, because one of my 8-round magazines I can only ever get 7 rounds in, and so I had to go 29 for 29. It did it. The gun has always performed flawless for me, never had a failure. But it, and while I had a ton of fun shooting it, I don't regret it. I thought I kicked ass those days. Did I ever win? No. Did I ever come close to winning? No. Was I dead last or close to it? Probably yes. Now, why? Well, let's talk about why. And a lot of that is pretty obvious when you compare this to more modern, what I'm going to call the in vogue guns of today. A large full-size gun that has a capacity of 8 plus 1, where you're engaging 20 targets, I'm going to have to reload at least 3 times to complete the stage. That puts you at a serious disadvantage when you are in the same class as people who probably have a capacity greater than 20 by virtue of their fancy Glock double-stack magazines. C'est la vie, right? Now, in a zombie hunting situation, you can see where that capacity sort of advantage or disadvantage, depending on the side of the coin you're on, how that factors into it. Now, how does that play into real life? I have no idea. Again, I'm not an expert. I really can't talk on that topic outside of fun zombie shoot type situations. So if you made it this far, you probably are thinking, damn, it took us a long time to get to the part where we compare them and find out which is better. And you're right, it did. But I'm glad you definitely hung in there with us. So the subjective which is better question, well, if you like single action 1911 style triggers, you're probably drawn to the 1911. You know, nice single action trigger on the Kimber, nice target sights. It's heavy enough to absorb recoil. It's accurate. It shoots. When it works well, but you know, it has that question of, is it going to work well today? When's it going to fail? Sig, you know, all reliable. It's accurate enough. You know, I would say, you know, it's a draw on capacity, but on the Sig you have the single action, double action trigger. Is it as a nice single action trigger as the 1911? No. Is it a bad trigger? No. You know, it's a very functional single action trigger. You can always replace the sights on it if you are not a fan of the sights that come on the gun. That's always nice having a gun with that option. If you like being able to carry a hammer down, double action, no safety, you certainly have that option. That would be the designed carry option with this gun. You would carry it hammer down because it has no safety, right? So that's where your decocker comes into play. If I had target sights on this gun, I would probably say accuracy would be a wash. However, since I don't, the Kimber wins on accuracy, though the Sig is an overwhelming winner in terms of reliability. It's never failed me yet. It just works, and you know, it works. So I hope you found that long-winded review helpful. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day.